Well, students, good afternoon to all of you. So, guys, today we are discussing the topic Macaulay minute, right? It is a very important question. Many times comes in the exam, right? Examiner asks the questions, write the features, recommendations of the Macaulay minute. Okay, it is in a paper 2 M.Ed class. So, under the Macaulay minute, first of all, we will understand, what is the meaning of Macaulay minute and what are the features and recommendations of Macaulay minute. Right, guys? So, what is Macaulay minute? The educational idea of Lord Macaulay are known as Macaulay's minute. Right? The educational idea of Lord Macaulay. Right? So, it is a name of the person's Macaulay minute. Macaulay is the name of the person, Thomas Babington Macaulay. Right? So I'm talking about before independence, okay, when British, were ruling on us, right, guys? The educational idea of a Lord Macaulay are known as Macaulay minute. Now we understand who was Lord Macaulay and little bit history of Lord Macaulay, and then we will talk about features and recommendations of Macaulay minute, right? So first we discuss who was Lord Macaulay. Thomas Babington Macaulay, who is generally regarded as the architect of the system of education in India during the British rule, right? I'm talking about before independence, right? When Britishers were ruling on us. So Thomas Babington Macaulay, who is generally regarded as the architect of system of education in India during the British rule, right? He was a great historian, linguist, orator, politician, statesman, and thinker. Right? Now you can see, image of Thomas Babington Macaulay. You know, uh, he was regarded as one of the first-rate literary figure of his time. As a parliamentarian, he made his mark in British Parliament. So he was also a parliamentarian. Okay, matlab he gave the lecture on in the British Parliament. That's why it is called the Macaulay Minute, right? He came into India in 1834 and joined as a law member of the Executive Council of the Governor General. He was also appointed as the president of the General Committee on the Public Instructions by Governor General Lord William Bentinck. Right? On that time, Lord William Bentinck was the Governor General. Okay, so he was a parliamentarian. He made his lecture. He gave his minute on the education in the British Parliament, and it became compulsory, mandatory, and approved by the Lord William Bentinck. Okay, now we understand what are the features, recommendations Thomas Babington Macaulay, presented in his lecture, in his minute. So these are, first of all, we understand the Macaulay minute objectives, right, guys? Okay, number one, Macaulay wanted the government to spend money only on the Western education, not Oriental education. This is the most important point, guys. Okay, now you can see that how the British, ruled on us. Okay, and that when any of the country rules on other country, so what that particular country, does that, he forces, he imposes, his culture, his customs, okay, on the other country. So basically, Lord Macaulay wanted the government to spend money only on the Western education because Britishers came from the Western, right? Not the Oriental education. Oriental education means Indian education. Oriental education means, like Eastern philosophy and others, which are taught in the Indian education. As well, he advocated for the closure of all the colleges that taught only Eastern philosophy and subjects. Guys, now, okay, after, learning this now, you will come to know that, the power of the India. Basically, now, all the countries they are talking about, they are developed country, they have a lot of technology, modern technologies than India. Guys, already, such kind of a technologies we already had. But what happened? We are ruled by the Muslims. We are ruled by the Britishers. So what they did that? They vanished. They, you can say that they close all our institutions, our gurukuls, okay, they vanished our technologies, they vanished our literature, okay. This is the reason he advocated for the closure of all the colleges that taught only Eastern philosophy and subject. Further, Lord Macaulay also advocated for the government to educate only a few Indians, who would then educate the rest of the population. And this is referred as the downward filtration policy. Further, he wished to create a pool of Indians capable of serving British interest and remaining loyal to them. Right? This group would be Indian by blood and color, but English by taste, opinions, morals, and intellect. Okay. Now, guys, you can think that, this is a policy, divide and rule, how they ruled, upon us around 200 years. Anna, you know that. Well, what they did that? Well, they provided, they, imposed such kind of education so that when any of the Indian, okay, goes through that education, okay, he would be Indian by blood and color, but English by taste, opinions, morals, and intellect. You can, see the power of the education. Guys, what we are, whatever we are taught, we are basically. So education is a, very important weapon. It was said by the, Nelson Mandela, it is a most important weapon by which you can change the world. This is the reason, teachers are called the, nation builder. Teachers are the torchbearer of the society. Education is the most important weapon by which you can change the world. So this is the reason why the education is a, important for us. Right? So through that policy, they ruled on us up to the 200 years around. Right? Further, we talked about what are the features and recommendations of the Lord Macaulay. So guys, in 1835, he presented his famous minute to the council. You know that he was a parliamentarian. We have just, read it. And, in the British Parliament, he in 1835, he presented his famous minute to the council, which Lord Bentinck approved. Lord Bentinck was a Governor General on that time, and a resolution was passed in March 1835. And what are the features and recommendations? In his minute, number first, in his minute on education, he justified the use of English as a medium of instruction, and also the teaching of a Western education to Indians. Teaching the Western education to the Indians. Okay. When they came at India, they ruled the India, they imposed, Western education. Even on that time, our education was rich because of the, religious education. They vanished our, all gurukuls. They vanished our, colleges where the philosophies were taught, right? And, forcefully, they imposed the Western education to the Indians. Next, the main goal of the British government should be, it was said by the Lord Macaulay in the Parliament, right? This is called the Lord Macaulay Minute now, right, guys? The main goal of the British government should be to promote European literature and science among Indians, and that all the funds appropriated for the purpose of education would be best spent on the English education alone. Macaulay wanted the government to spend money only on imparting Western education and not the Oriental education. I have just discussed, right? Spend more and more money on the Western education because they wanted that Indians should be, they have the, opinions, taste by the, Britishers, right? Such through the education. That's why, guys, it is said that if you have to rule any of the country with the help of education, your culture, you can impose on that country. So automatically there is no need to, invade that country, right? So further, he advocated the shutting down of all the colleges where only Eastern philosophy and subjects were taught. He also advocated that the government try to educate only a few Indians who would in turn teach the rest of the masses. This is called the downward filtration policy, right? From that way, they, ruled upon us. Now we talk about the Macaulay Minute features. Okay. He also lampooned. Lampooned means makes fun of the Indian knowledge and languages and thought them completely worthless. Well, this thing, said by the Lord Macaulay in the parliament. Okay. And even in the parliament, he make fun of Indian knowledge and language and thought them completely worthless. He said about the Indian literature. What he said? He said that a single shelf of a good European library was worth the whole native literature of India and Arabia. I repeat, a single shelf of a good European library was worth the whole native literature of India and Arabia. Such kind of a, he said in the parliament. He wanted to create a pool of Indians who would be able to serve British interest and be loyal to them. This class would be the Indian in blood and color, but English in taste, in opinions, in morals, and in intellect. So guys, through this kind of educations, you can, any, country rules on the other country. He also believed that the Western science was far superior to the Indian knowledge. Macaulay proposals were officially sanctioned in 1835, but in 1837, English was made the court language, and in 1844, high government posts were open to the Indians. Right? So now, we have talked about who was the Lord Macaulay, about the Macaulay Minutes. Okay, then we talked about the, features and recommendations of the Macaulay Minutes. Okay, now we discuss about the criticism of a Macaulay Minute. Okay, so Macaulay Minute was criticized in the following manner. Macaulay claim about English as the only medium of instruction can't be justified. Cannot be justified now, because India is a India has a number of states where where the persons they adopt the vernacular languages. Okay, so it can't be justified. Next, it is wrong to believe that Macaulay was responsible for the introducing a new education policy in India. Next, other Indian languages were neglected. Yes, he neglected the Indian languages because he said that English should be the main language. Basically, his downward filtration theory proved to be a more failure for Indians. Okay. So in conclusions, now we conclude that we discussed about the Macaulay Minutes, features, recommendations, criticism also. Now we conclude that. We may conclude that under the influence of an English education, Indians came in contact with the Western political system. Okay, justified, it is correct. Experience the democratic practice and become conscious about their duties and responsibility for future. Yes, it is also correct. It helped Indians to achieve success after the departure of English people. Okay, right? We conclude that, and this point is justified. Okay, but in his minute, he had said that a day would come when the vernacular languages would die in natural death, but it never happened. Today, he has been proved wrong. The number of people who use these languages is increasing day by day. The literature in these languages is also expanding and evolving. Right, guys? Thank you so much, guys, for these lectures. Thank you. So I'm going to stop this recording. Thank you so much, guys.